What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be painting this Reef Troll model from the Brineblood Marauders army. I bought the battle box set when this army came out because really I wanted to have it as a demo army when I'm showing new people the game. And when I started painting this model, I had a demo scheduled for like that weekend. So I wanted to block in all the base colors first. Normally I would paint in sections, like I would just finish up painting this arm in one go, but you'll notice we just do all the base coats first. And as you can see, I'm starting off with a very dark blue. Now his skin's going to end up much lighter once we're finished, but for the base coat, I like to start with the darkest shadow color that's going to be in that section. So for his shirt, I'm actually using a new paint here. This is the new Army Painter range, the Fanatic colors. And this is the first time that I'm using these, and you can see they cover really smooth. This is just thinned down a little bit with some water, and it's pretty much going on almost in just one coat over straight black primer. So I really recommend these paints, at least this color. And in the official art for this model, his pants and his shirt were kind of similar in terms of color, so I wanted to change it up a little bit, and that's why I'm going with this green color. So when I was painting the cloth parts here, since I was not following the official art, I was kind of just winging it in terms of what the finished product was going to look like. And this actually is another Army Painter Fanatic paint, so I've never used this before. So I just started slapping it on the model, and I kind of broke one of my own rules here of starting with the darkest color. I was envisioning these pants as being kind of an off-white, so that's why I chose this color initially, but it turned out to be a little bit too light for what I was hoping for. But after we get a nice smooth coat down, we'll come back and fix that later. And now I'm moving on to base coating the red scales that are all over the model. And so for this step, I'm using a very thin down paint and just making sure that I get most of the top of each individual scale. And I'm using this thin paint so that when it dries, it's not fully opaque and you're still gonna see just a little bit of that blue showing through, and the transition between the skin in between each scale and the actual red part of the scale is going to be smoother this way. It won't be quite as stark. After I finished up these scales is where I stopped for the day and headed out to our demo, and it was a really nice little day. We had about 5 of us there, and there was 2 new players that we were showing how to play the game. Unfortunately, the Brineblood's player lost pretty badly, but I'm just gonna blame that on this paint job not being complete yet. So as you can see, this was a couple days later, and I started working on the highlights for the skin. So I'm just working with a really thin down light blue here, and same concept as the red. We're just gonna put this on the raised muscle areas all over the model and just work our way all the way around and get all the skin in this step. Now this is gonna take several coats, and I did come back and do a little bit of glazing here and there just to build that color up in certain spots. And I'm also making sure to hit the spots that are showing through the holes in the clothing. So to me, the red scales on this model are probably the most interesting feature. So I wanted to really make sure that each individual scale kind of popped a little bit. So the first thing that I'm doing here is just adding a brighter red just to the top part of each scale. And just like in the previous step with the red, we're using really thin paint here. So you'll also see that after the model was base coated, now I'm going back and I'm pretty much finishing each individual section. And usually when I paint, I kind of think of each individual color as its own section, and I like to fully complete each one as I'm going. And so you'll see for this step, we're just covering less and less with the brighter the color gets. So earlier in the video, I mentioned we were going to fix the shading on the pants. And normally, I don't like to use too many washes or contrast like paints, but I felt like that was our only option for bringing in some darker color into the pants. So I went with a contrast paint here. And now I'm moving into highlighting the shirt. So I'm just going all the way around and highlighting all the raised edges with this lighter green color. And as I'm working through this section, I'm realizing that the shadows for his shirt are non-existent also. So I didn't like how the contrast paint came out on his pants. So I decided to just mix up my own shadow color with some of the paints I already had on my palette and just paint it in and see how that looked. So in this next step, what I did was mixed in the same base color green with some of the dark blue from the skin, and this is the color we got. It's kind of a greenish blue, but I think it came out really good. And this is a really good example of just using the paints that you have on your palette. You don't always need to break out a brand new paint if you need like a shadow color or whatever it is. Just use what you already got on your palette. So I did end up coming back in with some of that base color for the pants and just cleaning up some of the areas after the contrast paint, and I think it looks okay. So I moved on to highlighting it, and we're just using a warm off-white color to highlight it. So we'll just work our way around and hit all those edges. So at that point, I was pretty much done with the torso, and so I moved on to painting the face. And in the official art, the face that they painted, you can actually see the troll's gums like behind his teeth, which I think is a really cool looking effect. It gives it a lot of realism. So I wanted to emulate that, and so I started off the base color with a kind of dark pink flesh tone. And I just quickly highlighted up the tongue with a little bit of a brighter flesh tone, and then started working on the teeth. And I just started from a warm off-white color and slowly built that up over multiple layers until I got to a pure white, and just put that pure white just on the tip of each tooth. And so now I'm highlighting the skin on the face. I'm basically using the exact same method as I did for the skin on the rest of the model. It's just obviously a smaller area, and I'm covering more area with the lighter blue. Just kind of to draw more attention to the face, since that's going to be kind of a highlight of the model. And people are naturally drawn to the face when they're looking at a model anyways. So the brighter we make this stand out, the better it's going to look on the tabletop. If you watched any of my earlier videos, you've already seen this recipe for non-metallic metal gold, but I'm using it again here on the rim of his hat, and I'm still learning this technique really, but I think I'm starting to get the hang of it a little bit. And so what I'm doing is I'm starting here with a warm brown and just base coating the whole rim of the hat in that color. And once it's fully base coated in that brown, I'm coming back in with this goldish yellow color, and really I'm going to be painting this on about 80 to 85% of the total volume of this section. I'm just leaving the brown color showing through around the rivets and in the parts that are going to be in shadows. And next up we're going to a pale yellow, and we're just gonna edge highlight the whole thing. We're gonna paint each one of these little rivets and paint just inside of the yellow that we did in the previous step. And to finish off the NMM effect, we're just going to come in with a little bit of pure white and paint this just on the corners and onto the rivets and the sharpest edges. So at this point, we're probably about 8 hours in on this model, and I'm feeling like I just want to wrap it up. So I painted his cannon and the little balls with some metallics, painted the ropes a little bit, do a wash on them, and we're gonna call this guy done. As always, thank you guys for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, let me know in the comments. And if you want to see more of these types of videos in the future, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks again, and I will see you guys all next time.